so that we can have other people joining, and then we will start the session. Thank you very much.
Hello, Raymond here. Whilst waiting, I would like to indicate the ground rules so that when we start in 3 minutes, we didn't have to wait for that. Are we okay with that?
Yes.
What did you say, Raymond?
We have to indicate the ground rules.
Okay, will you post it again in the chat as we
Yes,
start?
so yeah. So I'll indicate it now. Once we start, I post it in the chat as well.
Okay.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Raymond Mamata from Accra, Ghana. This meeting is being recorded and is hosted under the IGF Code of Conduct and the UN rules and regulations. In case you would like to speak, you have to unmute yourself. However, if you're having problem doing that, please indicate it in the chat and the support team will gladly unmute you. If you're not speaking, kindly put your mic on mute. Any other support that you need, kindly let us know. Enjoy your session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Raymond. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Thank you very much for dialing in to this session on open data for women and persons with disabilities. We are very privileged and happy that you've joined this session. In the chat, we will have the rules that will guide us, and we will start right away. We gave ourselves 3 minutes so that we can wait for other people who are joining in. And we have a number of you already in the room, so we will not waste time. My name is Peace Oliver Muge. I'm the Executive Director of Women of Uganda Network, WUGNET. We are based in Uganda. And I'm also a member of the working group of the IGF Strengthening and Strategy. So I'm very happy to moderate this session. We have great speakers today. We will be discussing a number of issues on open data. We will look at the overview of open data. We will also look at how women access open data, and also how persons with disabilities access data. And also we will also look at some of the existing legal frameworks of open data in East Africa region, in the different countries of the East African region. We will also then finally look at some of the recommendations that we can give to the different stakeholders to ensure that women and persons with disabilities access open data. And without wasting time, we will go right straight to our first speaker, who is Joanne Katambi. Joanne Katambi is the assistant lecturer at the Uganda Institute of Information and Communications Technology. Joanne also is the founder of Digital Literacy Initiative in Uganda. Joanne, we would like to hear from you. Could you please give us an overview of open data, what open data looks like in East Africa? Please, Joanne, take the mic.
Thank you so much, Moderator Peace, for that great introduction. So for starters, in the recent years, there has been an increasing interest in open data, leading to the implementation of many initiatives and platforms to publish open data sets and build capacity around data use and help improve decision and policy making across the different sectors in the East African region. The open data movement in the area of access to public and other information is relatively new but very significant in the East African region states, namely Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, and South Sudan. Open data can be defined as data which is made accessible and available in a standardized machine-readable format and under a license that allows it to be reused and reshared. According to the International Open Data Charter, it defines open data as publicly available data that can be universally and readily accessed. It could be used and redistributed free of charge. It is data which is structured for usability and computability. In the several African countries, there appears to be a genuine political will to open up government-based data sets, not only for increased transparency, but also to achieve the economic impacts, social equity, and stimulate innovation. The role of open data intermediaries is really crucial, and it has been insufficiently recognized in a lot of the African context. Therefore, open data in Africa, especially the East African region, needs a vibrant, dynamic, open, and a multi-tier data ecosystem if these data sets are to make a real impact within our region. Let's look at the examples of some of the open data initiatives in East Africa. In Uganda, for example, there are a number of these open data initiatives being implemented by both public and the private sector. There's been a significant progress. For example, we do have the online publication of the national budget allocations, releases, and other statistical bulletins by the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, among others. In Kenya, they do have a KODI, Kenya Open Data Initiative, that has made government data sets available to the public in easy reusable formats with data from the different categories across all the sectors of the economy. And we also need to take note of that. Kenya is the largest economy across the region, and it has had a strong and a long track record of open data in our region. In South Sudan, they also do have a data portal initiative that has made their data sets available to the public in an easy reusable formats with data from the different categories across all the sectors of the economy. In Tanzania, an open data movement was initiated through the D-Lab project in order to realize the benefits of open data. So Tanzania has got a basic statistics portal that provides open data in a machine-readable format to be used and reused by anybody. The data produced is prioritized for education, water, and health sectors only. The government of Rwanda also recognizes creating value from open data, which requires actual data from the government. Thus, the government of Rwanda issued a directive to all the departments to publicly avail all the data for public consumption online and without charge. And this has really been the best in their country in terms of information access to everyone. In Burundi, an Iwachu open data was initiated and developed by the Iwachu Press with an aim to provide an open and reusable database about Burundi and to also centralize all valid data about Burundi. Thank you so much, Peace, for now, and over to you, our moderator.
Thank you very much, Joan, for taking us through the overview of open data in the different countries in East Africa. Thank you for pulling out, the different initiatives that these countries have. I think when you mentioning these different initiatives, it takes us to the next speaker. I think it would be nice for us to know how women are accessing this data and how these initiatives are working in reality. So our next speaker is Innocent Adriko. Innocent Adriko is an information technologist, scientist by profession. Innocent has great interest in internet policy and governance, and he is also a member of the Internet Society of Uganda chapter. He's also a member of the of the ICANN community, and is also an ambassador. He was an ambassador of the youth in the IGF 2019. Innocent, could you please tell us how women have been able to access open data, looking at what the different initiatives that Joanne has put across? Innocent, please, could you take the mic? Thank you.
Thank you, Peace, and everyone for joining this wonderful session. Given the significance and value of open data, it is important that government data is accessible to everyone, including our women, at the right time and all times. It is evident that most of the women in East Africa live in rural areas where digital inclusion has remained a challenge. Coupled with the high cost of internet in East Africa and connectivity challenges in many parts of the region, promoting open data has proved to be a nightmare. Whereas a percentage of these women access the internet, it has remained a luxury to most of the women, especially the ones in the rural areas. A large percentage of women lack even basic mobile phones. Therefore, it makes it impossible for you to talk about open data. Mobile phones, we do know that they aid accessibility for these women. But the fact that they don't even have these mobile phones, it is impossible for them to access government data platforms. In addition, we do realize that many of these women are illiterate. Therefore, talking about open data before talking about literacy is actually inconsiderate. This implies that government data needs to be localized from English to their local languages if they are to access and understand it. We do acknowledge that throughout East Africa, governments have embraced open data to promote transparency and accountability in governance. E-government platforms, for example, public information access centers, and even libraries where citizens and all stakeholders can access government data have been established. The government of Uganda, for example, established the Government Citizen Interaction Center and the Ask Your Government web portal. These portals do exist, and they are meant to provide specific government data to citizens on request. However, it is evident that majority of the citizens are not even aware of these platforms. They are not aware that they do exist. I have had an experience of my request on the Ask Your Government portal here in Uganda not being responded to. This therefore implies that the women deep in the rural areas and even those in urban areas may not easily access government data. Besides, open data is not enough if we don't have open technology. These women need to have the knowledge and open-mindedness to reuse, develop, and replicate the processes of open data. In conclusion, champion open data in East Africa means that we should refocus on our priorities, and this will give us the capacity to solve these challenges in a localized way, because these are localized community problems. Thank you, Peace.
Thank you very much, Innocent. Thank you for pulling out and bringing out clearly the challenges that women face when it comes to accessing open data. You talk about the illiteracy, you talk about the challenges of internet access, because if these women are not accessing internet, then it is difficult for them to access the open data, and then also you talk about the localization. You also talk about the challenges, and you gave an example of when you applied to access information from the government, and that was not done. So that means everyone is having a challenge with open data. Thank you very much, Innocent. I think it would also be nice for us to hear from Shamim Nampija, so that we can understand how open data is for persons with disabilities. So Shamim Nampija is an information and communications technology professional. and she has a vast experience in social communications. Shamim works for the National Union of Women with Disabilities in Uganda, and this union is a women-led organization. Shamim, could you please tell us how accessing open data has been for persons with disabilities? Thank you very much. Take the mic, please, Shamim.
Thank you so much, Chris, for that wonderful introduction. To give you an overview of what persons with disabilities are going through, it is widely acknowledged that persons with disabilities face social exclusion due to digital division and digital exclusion on account of their disability, gender, class, location, and privilege. Yet, several international human rights conventions, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Sustainable Development Goals, and in Uganda, Access to Information Act 2005, Uganda Constitution 1995, and Persons with Disabilities Act 2019, all recognize that access to communication technologies are not only human rights, but sources of empowerment and social integration for persons with disabilities. To answer your questions, according to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, 12.4% of the population constitutes persons with disabilities. The largest population of disability is concentrated in the rural areas. Women, more than men, have the highest rate of disability in Uganda. This background reveals that majority of persons with disabilities barely access open data. Now, for those persons with disabilities that can access open data, their access is limited by affordability and access to ICT tools and devices necessary to use open data. One needs either a smartphone or computer, stable internet connection or data, which are expensive to afford and access for majority of persons with disabilities. There is also the contradiction between Access to Information Act 2005 and the Uganda Constitution, which leaves room for misinterpretation by providers of open data. The Uganda Constitution and Persons with Disabilities Act 2019 recognize sign language as a national language, but the Access to Information Act does not recognize it as a medium to impart open data for persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities in Uganda are denied access to information held by the state due to the state's lack of resources to make it available in disability accessible formats. For example, most of the government updates on coronavirus have been disseminated without the presence of sign language interpreters to bridge the gap in communication for the hearing impaired. When we come to the e-government websites, they are not compliant with accessibility norms, so text-to-speech tools become useless, and oftentimes accessibility options are few and hard to locate on government service web portals. Also now, like the language used in these open data provisions, like the national budget and national statistics, to mention but a few, is too technical for the lay person with a disability to understand. In conclusion, I would like to say that it is indisputable that the government of Uganda has taken steps to provide citizens with open data, but a lot needs to be done to encourage persons with disabilities access open data and social inclusion. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Shamim. Thank you for highlighting and putting out the picture of how open data is for persons with disabilities. And you also mentioned the different portals that have that do not have the accessibility norms. Thank you very much for pulling that out. And also I would like to tell our dear participants that please let's use the chat to ask questions. We will have at the end some time to listen to your questions, but also we can use the chat to bring out to send out the questions to our dear panelists. And as Shamim has brought us to this, she also mentioned some of the challenges that we have with the different laws in Uganda. It would also be very nice for us to know some of the legal frameworks that exist in the East African region, and to know a little bit about these legal frameworks. We will be speaking to Elaine Nye. Kiponya, who is a civil and construction engineering student at the Technical University of Kenya, and she is also a mentor at the Kenya Center of Excellency, an organization that leverages on education to young girls living in the rural areas. Thank you very much, Elaine, for joining us. We would like to hear from you. What are some of those legal frameworks that exist in East Africa? Please take the mic.
Thank you, Peace, for the great introduction. And thanks to the attendees that have joined this session. I'd also like to thank my fellow panelists for bringing out the various aspects on open data with regards to women and persons with disability. So without further ado, I'll move to first defining what open data, according to me, is. Open data is data which is collected and shared with others to use as they wish without restrictions on copyright and usage, meaning it should be legally open without and as such unrestricted to any restrictive copyright terms. Open data policies should then provide a framework on opening access to government data and also providing governance mechanisms. Policies that are provided by the government should strive to highlight the requirements for a successful implementation of open data for all people, including women and persons with disability. This will greatly reduce the policy impediments and lead times with regards to the marginalized group. So when you come to the existing legal frameworks across East African region, for instance, we take Kenya. Kenya being one of the first African countries to launch an open data portal in July 2011, it has laws governing open data. And according to the Center for Public Impact Foundation report, which was released in 2010, a new Kenyan constitution was codified and it included Access to Information Act. This act was established to give an effect to Article 35 of the Constitution, which states that every citizen has a right to information held by the state, and they also have a right to information held by another person and required for the exercise or protection of any right or fundamental freedom. And then when it comes to Uganda, Uganda also has laws that guarantees access to information by the people. And a perfect example is the Access to Information Act, which was enacted in 2005. This act exhibits as foot forward for government willingness to provide useful public information. So accessing information does not guarantee an open data. And with this, I mean that open data should be made publicly available and not subject to valid privacy or security or privilege limitations. And also, this open data should be timely, meaning it should be made available as quickly as possible in order to preserve the value of this data. And then again, this open data should be primary, meaning that just as it has been collected from the source, it should be in that form and not in any other modified form. The Ministry of ICT Uganda has been developing an open data policy, even though not much work has been done on the open data portal in ensuring that all people, including women and persons with disability, are able to understand these data sets and also be able to interpret it. When it comes to Burundi, Burundi has a privacy policy known as Noima. Noima is a cloud-based technology platform that makes data accessible and also delivers intelligent data tools and discoveries. Noima is striving and committed to protecting information that of any visitor or individual or even entity that tries to register with it. And when you look at Rwanda, according to Article 34 of its constitution, it states that freedom of the press and freedom of information are recognized and guaranteed by the state. And also, Access to Information Law, which was enacted in March 2013, states that every person has a right to access information held by government bodies or even private bodies. And as such, it is the duty of the government to collect information on behalf of its citizens and make it available, since for us to achieve an information society and a knowledge economy, a cohesive society is required. And then in Tanzania, even though it has an open data portal, there is no policy on right to information law yet. And this, you find that it has, the absence of this law has made it inconvenient for those seeking information from the public. Nonetheless, the government has made numerous attempts to make more public information available. So having looked at these various existing legal frameworks across East African region, we realize that there is a certain lacuna on open data policies. And for instance, women and persons with disabilities are underrepresented when it comes to data formulation and implementation, with the perception that they cannot use tech, and therefore this is due to varied societal reasons. And also, you find that these open data policies that are put in place or enacted, they're neutral. Therefore, they do not clearly elaborate on how women and persons with disability are able to access this data and also be able to interpret it. And then lastly, there is no update on statistical law, therefore hindering release on open data. So in conclusion, I believe that a methodology should work upon having all East African countries come together to develop a framework on improving policy formulation, coordination, and implementation, while enabling access and inclusion of women and persons with disability across the East African region. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Elaine. Thank you for taking us through the different frameworks that these countries have. I think it's very important that we talk about it. And also you pull out some of the gaps that we have in these legal frameworks. Thank you very much, Elaine. And I mentioned before that let's use the chat. We have the Q&A for the questions and the chat for the comments. Please, let's use these different spaces to say out our minds. We will go to Joan lastly, and then we will open up the floor for the questions so that we can hear from you as well. And I think it is very important for us to talk about what are the different roles that different stakeholders play in ensuring that these that women and persons with disabilities can access open data. So Joan, could you please give us some of the roles that you think these different stakeholders play? Thank you, Joan. Please take the mic.
Thank you so much, Peace. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Joan.
Okay, thank you. So thank you so much for the question, and thanks for the great feedback from our panelists. I'll straight go to civil society organizations to ensuring, women and persons with disabilities are able to access data. One, civil society organizations need to run campaigns for open data in order to create awareness in all communities. For effective campaigns of open data, civil society organizations need to work with data technologists, information professions, computer scientists, information technologists, experts, academia, and ordinary citizens who advocate for greater access to government data, because whatever open data is coming out to the public, we, the citizens, are questioning our leaders on what has been done and what has not been done. So more needs to be done as regards to awareness in this initiative. Two, civil society organizations also should form collaborations and movements to work together and advocate for policies that are inclusive and favorable. I'll give an example. In Uganda, we have the Digital Human Rights Lab in Uganda. It is part of the project of human rights protection in the digital age, which is implemented by Better Place Lab and Future Challenges by the GIZ. So this lab has created a number of community of practices. An example is ICT for advocacy, civil society organization, community of practice, access to information and services for minority groups, community of practice, among others, with the agenda to enhance access to data and information. And one of their focus areas is still open data by women and persons with disabilities plus other vulnerable groups. Back to our governments in the East African regions. Our governments need to develop teams, strategies, action plans, and policies in support of their commitments towards open data. These strategies should typically be high-level plans focused on the particular long-term goals, actions, and resources required for the success of open data initiatives. While action plans and policies will define specific courses of action adopted in order to guide decisions towards implementation of this initiative. Governments too should add metadata to ensure that data can be understood by citizens, especially women, minority groups, persons with disabilities, and it can be found via search engines. When I talk about metadata, I mean data about data. When you look at our data portals across the region, they specifically give you the figures. There's even no data backing up of those figures that people can even use for further analysis and decision making. Governments should also clearly communicate the data they hold. And this has really been a question from time to time. They should prioritize the data they do publish. They also need to make this open data permanently accessible and findable. You've had an example Innocent has given us. He put in a request for certain specific data. Until now, he has never received any reply. So they need to really come out to the public and be bold to tell us which data they hold and how should we, the citizens, be able to access it. Governments also need to have standard formats for publishing this data so that our women and persons with disabilities are able to interpret. I will tell you, when you open these government platforms, they are all in a second language, which is English. Rural women then, how are they able to interpret this content and be able to use it, and even our persons with disabilities? So it is key that they should look at the issue of these standard formats when it comes to publishing, and we should be able to interpret it. Another point is our governments should provide public data guidelines and standards for this open government data on accessibility. This is clear. If you need, for example, information on the education sector, the health sector, where should you run to? If you find the platform, then how do you get to understand the numbers, the statistics that are actually being put online? Another key issue is, of course, governments need to also use standard open licenses, and they should help citizens, especially women and persons with disabilities, to understand the legal context first. Because people need to know, if you need to use maybe classified information from our governments, what are the copyright laws? What are the laws that are binding the information that you're trying to take up and be able to redistribute and reuse? Because it's been a norm in our region. The law comes in when you actually make a mistake. If they came in to create more awareness, tell the public, tell the citizens, here is the data, here is how it can be used or it can be accessed, then we wouldn't have more problems within the data and the laws that they actually put in place. Open data needs commitment from the political leadership to be entrusted to a dedicated and adequately resourced custodian and embedded through permanent data processes, a persuasive culture within all relevant government institutions. Thank you, Peace, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Joan. Thank you for the elaborate recommendations that you've given to the different stakeholders it is clear that we all have a role to play, and I'm very happy that you pull them all out clearly. I think it's the right time that we listen to our dear participants. And in the chat, we've been seeing Sandra. Sandra is the program manager of, at Women of Uganda Network, WOGNET. She has been giving us different links to information, links to some of the laws and some of the write-ups that the speakers have mentioned. Please, you can have a look. We also have Rebecca Nyakitura, who is also helping with the chat. So we would like to open up the floor to our dear participants. Please, you can raise your hand and you will take the mic, or you can still use the question and answer session. Please, we would like to hear from you. If you have maybe a comment, if you have maybe a question to one of the panelists, or a general questions to all of us, please, we will be happy to hear from you. I see Cherlin in the chat. Would you like to say something? You could take the mic and say it out. You said that the cyber survey development in our communities is essential in my biased point of view. Could you please take the mic? Would you like to take the mic? Cherlin? Do we have any hands up? Raymond, could you please unmute Cherlin? Raymond, could you please unmute Cherlin?
Oh, hi, Cheryl Langdonor for your record, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this this dive into the work you've all done in terms of open data and access, and how we need to empower all our communities so much more. I like the term cyber savvy, because we don't need to look just as a literacy point of view. We need to look at a resilience, an intelligence, a cleverness, an observance, a whole lot of being aware, being cautious, being well informed matters in this whole cyberspace, to better help women and, of course, people with disabilities, but in fact everyone, to manage more effectively and more safely in our interactions. So that's where I was heading with my couple of sentences. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Yes, you're very right. Thank you for bringing that out. Thank you. And we are still open. We still have some time before we close the session. So please take the mic or use the chat or the question and answer. But I think you can take the floor since we have some questions. We still have some time, I mean. Anybody has a hand up? Yes, we have a hand up. And Raymond, could you please unmute Asain Tegule?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Asain.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a quick comment, to congratulate you guys for a great session. It has been very informative, and especially learning about different open data initiatives across Africa or across the eastern side of Eastern Africa. And so I would like also to thank Sandra on the chat, who has shared the links that lead to all the open data initiatives that exist in the region. So thank you very much. And as for the DRC, as I'm calling, speaking from the DRC, we don't have any, we don't have yet any such initiative. And so I wanted to know, to find out from different panelists, how, if you can share a bit of experience on how countries, these countries got started. Who triggered the discussion, who is managing, the process, and so what was the role of civil society in being part of these open data initiatives? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hussein. Thank you that you appreciate, and thank you for joining. And your questions, Joanne, would you like to take the question that Hussein has posed? John, are you there? And if anyone else has a comment or questions, please, you can still also take the mic as we wait for Joanne to maybe give some more highlights on the questions that Hussein has posed. Does anyone have something that you want to say? Yes, we have a hand up. It's Mary Iduna. Can we have Mary unmuted, please, Raymond? And Mary,
Yeah,
please take the mic.
Hello? Hello, am I unmuted?
Yes, Mary, we can hear you.
Okay. First, I want to congratulate you for putting up this very informative and very positive session, especially for the women and those with disability. I'm sorry if there are noise in the background, please pardon me. We're in the home. The issue is, do we know, can we say there are commitments from the stakeholders, and what type of commitment do we expect from the stakeholders to be able to actualize open data and being able to communicate to those with disability? In particular, I'm interested in those with disability. Within your region and within other African regions, are there some linkages? Are there some partnership? Are there some collaboration at the African level? Maybe I came in late when you were making your presentations, but I need to know whether there are commitments, and if not, what commitments what should we recommend that should be the commitment of each stakeholder to be able to actualize this? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Thank you for joining in and for your question. We will take another question. I see, it's your hand. I thought we had another hand. And yes, Shamim took us through how persons with disabilities are accessing open data. I do not know if Shamim would like to briefly tell us how these initiatives are working for you, as Mary has put it out. Are there commitments, and then she's asking if there are commitments, to these initiatives and making sure that persons with disabilities can access open data. And we also still have in the chat, yes, okay, that's Sherilyn. And if anyone has questions, please, you could raise your hand or you could take the mic. We still have some minutes, we would like to listen from you. We would like to hear from your experiences. I know a number of you have interacted with this topic, and probably you deal with this topic on a day-to-day. So we would like to hear from you. What are your experiences? What do you say about it? What are some of the recommendations that you would also probably want to put up for us? So please, you can raise your hand or you can take the mic, and also you can use the question and answer or use the chat. We have a number of ways that you can reach out to us. Oh, someone is saying that please, there will be a form after the session for you to leave your feedback. Oh yes, Shadrach is telling us that there will be a form after the session for you to leave your feedback. Okay, please, Shadrach, we've taken note of that. We would still like to hear from you, please. Does anyone have a comment?
Hello.
Shamim? Oh yes, John, you can take them. You can go on.
Thank you so much. I was having internet issues back this side. I want to say thank you so much to our participants who are in the house. And back to Hussein first, what prompted this initiative? One is transparency, and two, accountability. Usually this open data is available online. So open data brings about greater transparency, which in turn brings about greater accountability of key actors, leading them to making decisions that and apply rules in the public interest. Innovation and also economic development is part of the initiative. So open data enables even non-state innovators to improve public services and also be able to build new products and services with social and economic value. So open data usually shifts certain decision making from the state into the market. Inclusion and empowerment, and also it tries to remove power imbalances that are resulted from asymmetric information. And it brings in new stakeholders into policy debates, giving marginalized groups a greater say in the creation and application of rules and policy. Back to you, Mary. I thank you so much for your, joining us and highlighting and giving us some issues. So in Africa, open data projects are often undertaken also to increase transparency and accountability, especially where governments have signed on the Open Government Partnership and committed to open data as part of their action agenda. So as then you also need to check out with the DRC if your country has also signed up to be part of this open government partnership, and then there you'll have much more information about it. Over to you, Peace, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Joan. I think we also have Shamim in the queue who would like to say something. Shamim, you can take the mic. And also, still, we are open to more questions, to more comments. Please, you are welcome. Shamim, you can have the mic.
Thank you so much, Peace, and Mary for the question. I would like to say that the government has taken initiative to actually skill persons with disabilities in digital literacy and technical skills. So the government of Uganda is partnering with organizations of persons with disabilities to reach persons with disabilities and work with them in its digital literacy skilling program. It's being run by the Uganda Communications Commission, the government arm of Uganda. No, sorry. It's the communications arm of the government of Uganda, yes.
Thank you, Shamim. Thank you very much for that. And then also, Joan, in the chat, we have Hussein is still making a follow-up. He's asking where does he check for what you mentioned, and then he's asking whether DRC has signed on the Open Government Initiative. Joan, would you like to respond to that? Hello, John. Can you hear us? As we wait for Joan to come on, I hope you don't have any difficulties with unmuting your mic. We can still take more questions and comments, please.
Hello, Peace.
Yes, please, Innocent.
I think I need to add on what John talked about how these initiatives started up and who was actually playing the great role, or who was doing the partnerships and everything like that. I'll use an example of the Government Citizen Interaction Center in Uganda that was started by the government through the Ministry of ICT. The Ministry of ICT was able to roll out this this initiative with support from the government of Korea. The Ministry of ICT has a partnership with the government of Korea in a number of issues like information security and access to information, etc. So the person who the other actors who are able to roll out these initiatives, they include, of course, the civil society. The civil society actually plays a great role, as we know. For example, here in Uganda, the Internet Society, for example, Uganda chapter, plays a great role in policy reforms because it has a direct partnership with the Ministry of ICT and the regulator in Uganda, which is the Uganda Communications Commission. So all I can say, it's a whole effort of everyone in the sector here in Uganda, because these initiatives are not just a mindset of the government, but a collective mindset of the civil society and the government, with support from, of course, the different government, foreign governments, and other partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Innocent. And then we have another question that Chamsa is asking, what are the efforts that women or persons with disability, what efforts they can make to access open data? Would someone want to take on that question? Elaine or Shamim, would you like, or even Innocent, if you'd like to respond to Chamsa? Chamsa's question is wondering or asking what efforts that women and persons with disabilities, can make to access open data.
Thank you, Peace. I think I can take that question. Efforts that women and persons with disabilities should make to access open data. What I would first of all say is that we do agree that government data is there, it's present. The challenge is how these people get the data. But as we all know, it's not a single responsibility, like as in to say it's not only the government that is responsible to make sure that data is accessed by the citizens. We citizens, the women and persons with disabilities, should be able to put in an effort. How? Make use of the initiatives. We do agree that the initiatives have challenges, yes, but for as long as you are able to know that the initiatives exist, then you should be able to make use of them. For example, I talked about the government portals all over East Africa. When you look at how many people actually access these platforms, yes, the number is low, but not because everyone who is not accessing the platforms have no idea. Some have an idea, but maybe they restrain. They restrain from using these platforms to access data. So the first thing I can talk about is the women and persons with disability should make use of the opportunities that they have to access this data. Some of this data is also in libraries, in public libraries. For example, here in Kampala, we have a number of public libraries, and I can assure you that when you go to these public libraries, you actually find government data on almost every sector. So it's we, the citizens, who have to take up that responsibility and leave alone the challenges that a number of people are not possibly accessing this data. The ones who already know should be able to make use of these initiatives. Secondly, we do agree that most of this data is on the internet. And to some people, the internet has still remained a luxury. However, even the people who access the internet possibly do not look at accessing open data as priority to them. accessing government data, they don't look at it as priority. So this also leaves a gap that actually some people might be aware of the government data and they might be able to access the internet, but accessing government data is not part of their priorities. So this brings me to engagement. We need to sensitize our populations. One, we need to sensitize our population that open data is actually very useful to them. And we need to sensitize them about their right to information. This way we shall be able to achieve some of these goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Innocent. We have Shamim who would like to add on something. Shamim, please, you can take on the mic. And we have only 4 minutes actually to end the session. So please, Shamim, you can take on the mic.
Thank you so much, Peace. I would like to add on that the government should develop measures to train persons with disabilities and professionals in the use of the different communication formats and technologies to help them access open data. Because what is the use of open data being in existence if I don't know how to access it, and I don't even know how to, and actually do not know of its existence? Yes? So people need to be made aware that these platforms are available and trained on how to use these platforms. There's also the need to lower the import taxes on the ICT devices brought into the country. It will be if computers, or let's say the government provided public computers and computer labs in the libraries that Innocent speaks of, then maybe we shall see more access to open data by persons with disabilities. But you may go to the library and find that a library has only 5 computers, of which most of them are outdated. So another thing is that the Ministry of ICT, as a body governing communications and communication technologies, it should develop guidelines specifically for persons with disabilities to empower them to access open data. And with the development of these guidelines, they should at least try to streamline them into the national policies. So we will see persons with disabilities engaged with access to open data, like from the Ministry of Health, from the Ministry of Finance, from the Ministry of Education. Yes, like it needs to be a concentrated, streamlined effort to see to it that persons with disabilities access open data. Thank you, Peace.
Thank you very much, Shamim. And I think we are coming to the end of our session. And in the chat, Joanne has responded to a saying where you can check out for the open data related the questions that you ask on DRC. Please have a look at the chat. And then we have one hand raised up, and that is Elaine. Elaine, please, you can take the mic. We have just 2 minutes, please. Just use 1 minute.
Thank you, Peace. I just wanted to add on something. This is a shared responsibility, and action is required to challenge embedded patriarchal attitudes and norms, and practical steps must be taken to create better data and also adopt clear policies and promote opportunities and safe space for women and persons with disability. So this will see the women and persons with disability accessing this data more easily. Thank you.
Elaine, thank you very much. And thank you very much, our dear speakers, and thank you all the participants who joined in from the different countries, from the different organizations, or joining in as individuals. We're very happy for these great conversations that we've had. Thank you for the time that you've created. We've come to the end of the session, and we are very grateful. We still have a number of comments coming in the session, but unfortunately, we cannot take them now, but we're really, really, really grateful for your time and for all the insights that you've given to us. Thank you very much. Have a good day, good evening, and good night.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary.
Peace, I was told we need to have a screenshot. Hello, Peace?
Yes, please, I can hear you.
Can you take a screenshot of the screen?
Okay,
on your
please.
side?
Okay, but
yes,
thank you very much,
yes,
all the participants.
Yes, please, you have to do that so that you add it to your reports.
Hello?
Okay, thank you. And Raymond, will you end the session or participants will leave as they wish?